I mean, how would you say inequality affects waste disposal within those marginalized communities? What policies do you think can be implemented to ensure that marginalized communities have fair and sustainable waste management practices?
Okay, so I think some of the inequalities that I've noticed in marginalized communities is landfills or dump sites being located around these communities. So most times we always have this divide of urban and suburban areas, and those from the highbrow areas eventually dispose of their waste in these marginalized communities. So the effect now is being felt by those communities. Meanwhile, bulk of the waste is coming from the highbrow areas, but the effect is being felt by these marginalized communities. And there's also no access to waste management services. As you've said, we generally have this problem across Africa and Nigeria, where we have limited access and infrastructure to manage waste. But it's even worse in marginalized communities because sometimes their roads are bad and they lack infrastructure, and they are not even recognized. A lot of the times they're not even recognized by government agencies. You get, so they do not even come under communities that even deserve to have these services provided to them. So some of the policies that we then need to put in place to ensure that this gap is no longer there is to ensure that these communities are recognized legally. Marginalized communities need to be recognized legally, in as much as sometimes these people go to set up their communities on their own. The fact that they're already there and they're human beings, they're under the authority, such services should be brought to them. And then the communities need to be engaged in such a way that even though it's not well organized, they can find a way to organize themselves. So they need to now have policies that they can adopt, not big policies that cannot be adopted in this marginalized communities. So we need to have specific policies for these communities to help them manage their waste and also engage the communities in managing this waste effectively. So those are some of the things that I've noticed and the recommendations. And I think just to throw back to you, how do you think we can engage these habitual communities? Because sometimes these marginalized communities, they have a habit of disposing waste indiscriminately because they do not see the need, or government is not even providing them with the services. So I think, how do you think that we could change this habitual indiscriminate waste disposal?
Okay, thank you, Blessing. So I would say that for rural communities, I mean for what's it called now? For local communities, you need to first of all understand the waste that you are dealing with. So for different communities or for different areas, you have different types of waste streams. So in developed communities, in urban centers, you could get more inorganic waste, things like plastics, paper, metals, and the likes. But in rural communities, you find things around organic waste, so farm waste, animal waste, and all those things. Every of this can be recycled, can be used for something else. But you first of all need to understand what is more predominant in the area that you are working with, and then provide an incentive for that. Because if you incentivize people, I mean, nobody wants to leave $1 on the table. Everybody wants money, So if you incentivize people to say, okay, you have this kilogram of waste, you have this number of waste in your house that you just dispose of indiscriminately, I'm going to give you an incentive for it. I remember when we started, we were not even giving people money. We were giving people things as simple as t-shirts, key holders. I think one time we even gave persons pens, like just biros, that are customized, and they're willing to give us their waste. So just find an incentive that works for that community find the waste stream that you identify that is the major challenge, because you don't want to go to a community talking about plastics when they don't even generate so much plastic. So find what works in that community, and find an incentive that you believe can also work. So, for example, in a rural community, you could be looking at what's it called now? Maybe even hoes, cutlasses, people that like to go to the farm. So, as incentives, that's my take on that.
Yeah, that's very true, because you need to also give people something that they would really appreciate. Because if you go to a rural community where there are farmers and you give them pen and book, they probably chase you out. So what are some of these legal frameworks? Because we've been talking about policies and government. What are some of the legal frameworks that controls waste management?
Okay, so I think I mean Nigeria as a context, the major regulatory framework is focused on the local government. So the local government is in charge of waste management in Nigeria. It's supposed to be, in charge of waste management in Nigeria. So local governments have that right to penalize you if you don't collect your waste and all that. However, the reverse is the case. You find that many state governments are the one who are even in charge of waste management in their communities and all that. And that's it's a little bit tricky, because at this point now you don't know who does what, and you don't know which regulation works for what, because today the local government is saying come and pay your waste collection bills. Tomorrow the state government is saying come and pay your waste collection bills, because they are the ones who are actually doing the job. Meanwhile, the local government is supposed to be in charge. So just to cover that, I would just say the local government manages waste in most states of Nigeria, and they have the framework differs from state to state. There is an overall framework which is governed by NESRA, the Nigeria Environmental Standard Regulatory Agency, and it's broken down into different types of waste streams. You have organic waste, inorganic waste, you have liquid and solid waste and all that. So that's my thought process around that. So Blessing, what are the biggest regulatory challenges that you think refugee communities or refugee settlements face when it comes to waste management?
So like I said before, the lack of recognition, because sometimes these settlements are very informal, and for that reason the government doesn't recognize them, and that means that services do not get to them. As you rightly said, that waste management is being managed by the local government. So if this government doesn't even recognize you, then how do you even access the waste management services? So the first challenge that we've seen is the lack of recognition of these settlements. And then the next thing is even weak enforcement of existing waste regulations. So like I said before, people living in highbrow areas can easily just pay a private company to take up their waste, and then that waste goes to end up in somewhere else at the back of their community where refugees are settled. So because the local government doesn't also enforce some of these laws that it has put up, then it now leads to these inequalities where people can just dispose of their waste wherever they deem best. It's out of my sight, so I can just go and dispose of my waste in these areas. So yeah, those are some of the challenges that we've seen in these areas.
Okay, thank you. So let me just write on that question. But do you think government and humanitarian organizations can create policies for? So for humanitarian organizations, I would say push for policies for refugee-led waste management initiatives. And how do you think they can actually go about that?
So yes, like we said, these communities are not as organized as the planned communities. So we need to then come up with strategies that are specific to them. For instance, we already know that their roads are bad, and that means that big trucks cannot go into these communities. So can we find a way of saying, oh, let's have push carts go into these communities to pick up the waste and bring them out, because dump trucks cannot go into this community, and then to also improve funding and infrastructures for them. So even though they are not recognized, we then, since they are now there, things now need to be put in place to say, okay, how do we now make the people living in this area to have the necessary infrastructure? How do we fund them? And that is where humanitarian organizations come in, because they are able to raise funding, grants, to then come in and say, oh, okay, we can institute a collection site here. We can institute a training center here where we train people how to convert waste, or we can enable community members with or empower community members with push carts to carry waste from house to house to the designated recycling or composting center in the community to then, manage this waste. So these are ways that private organizations and governments can collaborate. So maybe the government's dump site is outside of the community. So with the humanitarian efforts, bringing it out of the community to that government's dump site makes the environment clean and, easy to collect this waste. So have you seen any way where producers can, take responsibility for this waste that is being generated? Because we've been talking about government and community. How about the producers of this waste?
Okay, thank you, Blessing. So, this is talking about extended producer responsibilities, rights, and all those, and which we call polluters pay. So, if you produce the plastics that are used for packaging these materials, you should pay for it. That's just a simple thing around that. And it works because at the end of the day, they have alternatives to use. They could use glass, they could use other things, but they chose to use plastic because it's easier to handle, it's cheaper, and all those things. So they play a very key role. EPR plays a very key role in the circular economy and in waste management because they help to keep the value chain going by supporting various initiatives. So with the monies that come through EPR, you find a lot of recycling businesses pop up. A lot of recycling initiatives are being run by proceeds of the EPR. So the EPR is I would say, if properly done, it's going to be a major win for waste management in Africa and in Nigeria. And I think it can be strengthened through collaboration between the government and the private sector. So I think this has been done a lot in South Africa. I think it's called PETCO or something. And there's a whole system around it. I think someone's mic is where the producers pay for whatever that they produce, and they are mandated to also have a certain percentage of recycled material in their packaging processes. I think Nestle in Nigeria is doing that already, where I think 50% or 70% of their packaging are recycled material. So it goes a long way in actually helping the circular economy. So thinking about businesses and how EPR helps them, Blessing, how do you think social entrepreneurs in Africa can integrate waste management into profitable and sustainable business models while still ensuring that, they are environmentally sound?
So for a business that is already running, you have to take responsibility for effective disposal in your organization. So you can partner with a local recycling company to recover and recycle your waste. You don't necessarily then have to go into recycling, just like the way you started out now. So if in your production process as a social enterprise in Africa, you generate a lot of waste, to then build on that profitability, why not partner with a recycling company to then take back this waste and recycle it, and you still earn from it. So that's even building more profit for your business instead of, so for instance, like the pure water companies that you talked about. So during their production process, they get factory rejects, which they can now resell to recycling companies for a token. So as a social enterprise in Africa, where you are into production and your process generates some form of waste, you can take responsibility as a producer for that waste, either collecting it back, putting it into the recycling economy, so that you then have raw materials for your production again, and also some form of funding.
Okay, thank you so much, Blessing. So moving away from, Blessing, I mean, just to follow up on the question the person even asked, the last person asked around refugees, what do you think some of the most cost-effective or low-cost waste management solutions that can be applied in refugee communities or displaced communities? What kind of solutions do you think can adapt to those kind of communities?
Okay, so I think community-led collection and sorting, processing would be the most effective, because considering like he mentioned in his question, the distance you have to travel to transport this waste, it's even eating into the whatever incentive or profit is supposed to come in. But if these waste materials are generated in the community and can also be processed in the community, we've had situations where people, humanitarian organizations, go into such communities and train people how to upcycle this waste product, either the plastics into decorations or bags or fashionable items, or even the organic waste into compost. And those items can then be sold as a way to even generate income for the individuals or even for the community at large. So you can find ways. Upcycling is one very good way to, manage waste in the community, because a lot of the upcycling processes that we currently carry out do not need a lot of resources, probably some manual tools that the community already have skills in, and they can just implement and process this waste within their community, and then have products that they can also sell to other communities. So what they're now transporting out of their communities are actual products that can be sold to get income, instead of taxing the community for waste management. So I think that's a low cost waste management solution. I know we've seen a lot of digital and technological advancement and improvements in waste management. Can you maybe throw us some light into some of this digital technology?
Okay, Blessing, thank you. So, I mean, there are myriads of them, but two of the most common that I know now, mobile apps and even web apps. We started our business on the backdrop of web apps and mobile applications. So, where people can request for waste pickups, request for drop-offs at your facility, and even just monitor the progress of, I have collected 10 kilograms of waste this month. I have removed 10 metric tons of CO2 from the environment by recycling. So those kind of tools, mobile apps, web apps, and AI tools. AI is becoming a thing now, and it is actually being used already in like large-scale recycling industries, where machines do the sorting for them. So AI tools are trained to know what materials are recyclable and what materials are not recyclable. So I would say mobile apps, AI tools, and the likes are like two of the major, what's it called now, technology that I know that are really useful for waste collection, especially waste sorting.
What other advancements have you seen in the waste management and technology space recently?
Okay, so I know that there's blockchain. So blockchain is also a thing where you want to trace the life cycle of a material, for example. So if I have a plastic bottle and I want to know where it was produced, how many times it has been recycled, where it was even recycled and all that. Blockchain is a technology that is being used currently now to trace the life cycle of recycled materials. I know a couple of organizations that are already using blockchain to do end-to-end traceability of recycled materials. And some of the technologies that are emerging also, waste to energy is a thing, although there are environmental concerns, but there are also technologically advanced waste to energy facilities that at the end of the day even just bring out steam as the effluent gas, not CO2 or even CO, as the case may be. You have reverse vending machines that are becoming a thing in Africa. Before now, reverse vending machines were not really common, but now it's becoming a thing. There's single stream recycling. Single stream recycling is a situation where you don't need to sort all your waste. For example, plastics in a different bag, metals in a different bag, carton in a different bag. Single stream recycling allows you to just combine all your recyclable waste into one bin, and then it goes to a factory where they use technology to then sort them by themselves. And then you have things like chemical recycling. So chemical recycling now, there are some materials that are not economically viable to recycle them mechanically. So when I mean mechanically, like you crush them, you melt them and all that, there are some materials that you cannot recycle that way. So you have things like chemical recycling where you can then convert the plastics back into biodiesel and the likes. And then you have also, there are some technologies now where you have microorganisms that feed on plastics, and it's a form of recycling as well. So those are some of the common, more recent technological advancements that I've seen in the recycling sector. So Blessing, we are getting into the meat of this conversation now. Just to ask, just to know, how can businesses and households adapt like better recycling practices, in their households, in their businesses and the likes?
So let me just even start off from where you stopped. So like you said, there are a lot of digital or mobile apps that encourages recycling. So as individuals or businesses, we can take advantage of this platforms to connect with recycling organizations that are closest to us, because I've seen some that what they even do with their mobile apps is wherever you are, they would take you to the closest recycling facility to you. So all you need to do on your own part is sort, and then on that app you can locate the nearest recycling facility, either to go drop off or to come pick up. So as individuals and businesses, your own part is just ensure that the materials that are recyclable in your own facility or household is being sorted properly. Even though Femi has mentioned single stream recycling, I think that's still something we are expecting in the future. Right now, I think a lot of recycling companies will still prefer you sort them into some of the various streams. Maybe you combine plastics and then you combine carton and paper, but not necessarily having to mix everything together in one stream. I know that here in Africa, one of the most prevalent models of waste management is the informal waste pickers. I know, Femi, you have done some kind of stuff trying to integrate them. Can you just maybe shed more light on how you've tried to integrate informal waste pickers to just ensure that households and businesses can adopt recycling?
Okay, and thank you, Blessing. So, this question is very tricky because, yes, we've done a couple of, we have done some work with training informal waste workers. I think so far, both directly and with partners, we've done over 1,500 waste pickers in Abuja. just training them on how to manage waste, health, safety, and environment, and all those kind of things. I mean, with my experience with them, I would say that just continuous training, because it's a lot of work to change someone's ideology and mindset. Something he has known for a long time, and you're trying to change it in a space of 2 weeks, probably would not work. So just continuous training, I would say. And then one other thing that we did was also trying to register them formally. So for every informal waste worker that works with us, we try to register them, get them an ID card, get them registered with the government as well. And this is not a form of registration, but it kind of helps us to hold them accountable. So we also open bank accounts for them. And one of the requirements to open a proper bank account in Nigeria is to have what they call the bank, I think bank verification number or something. And for you to get that, you have to go through a lot of process. So if you're going to get your account number, you need to get all those things ready. So we take them through that process to get them some level of formality, and then provide them things like reflective jackets that have the name of the company on them, so that they know that they can identify with a certain company. They're not just random individuals roaming around the streets picking waste.
Yeah, because I think I know that there are a lot of controversies around informal waste pickers being thieves. Very good initiative.
Yeah, thank you very much. So, but I know that you also have done some work with nylon, in terms of upcycling and all that. So, what are some ways that you think that we can actually manage nylon waste?
Yeah, so like I said in my introduction, nylon is a very difficult material to recycle because of how flexible and very light they are, and they very easy to pick up dirt, and that makes recycling companies even shy away from them. And so some of the best things that we have seen happening to nylon is upcycling. So traditionally, as Africans, we have this traditional means of making fabric. So we have either wool or yarn, and we have a loom, and then we begin to weave that into what here in Nigeria, the Yorubas call ashoke. So we weave it into ashoke and we wear. So that method has also been introduced into upcycling, where individuals can now take up nylon, shred them as though they were wool or yarn, and then begin to weave them into bigger fabrics that can then be used to make fabrics, tablecloths, shoes, bags, just very interesting stuff that people can actually use as actual fashion, and they're very durable, very, very durable items. So yes, those are some of the ways that I've seen nylon being managed. Another method is mechanical recycling, where they are melted down, mixed with sand, and then used to form bricks for construction, sustainable building. And funny enough, these nylons are nylon bricks or plastic bricks are even stronger than the traditional cement bricks that we usually use, because they're durable. You throw them on the ground, they bounce back, they don't break. So yeah, those are some of those initiatives that are currently going on for nylon management. So how would you like to address issues around recycling plastic and how you can turn it to a profitable business? Because I think for a lot of people that are here, they are interested in how can I start this as a business? So maybe just give us a rundown of how you started, how you went from being a one man to a business.
Okay, I mean, I know that's so many people on this call anyway. So, I mean, it's not rocket science. It's not rocket science. For me, it's simple, and there are many approaches to running a recycling social enterprise. I thought the part of production, like producing new items, we are not even there yet. We are still at the process of aggregation. But first step is, can you collect waste? Because at the end of the day, even when you have a big factory, that produces end products. The question is still, can you collect waste? You find, if you are in Nigeria, you find a lot of manufacturing companies running from north to south, east to west, looking for PET bottles currently, because they had built 100,000 metric tons capacity of plastic recycling facilities. But what they did not consider is, will they get this waste? So you need to first of all build collection capacity. And that's the first step. So there are different levels in the recycling value chain. There's the collection, there's sorting, there's aggregation, there is recycling, and then there's final manufacturing. So at every level you can make money. So if you want to make money as an aggregator, it simply means that you gather the materials together, allow it to accumulate for a period of time, and then you sell it to manufacturing companies, so recyclers, as the case may be. The other step is, do you want to be a recycler, not a full manufacturer, but just a recycler? So a recycler could be someone who just has a machine that either compresses the waste, right, or a machine that crushes it into tiny bits, which we call flakes. That is a level in the recycling value chain. And the other thing you need to note is that the higher you go in the recycling value chain, the more technical it is, but the more profitable it becomes. Because, for example, if you aggregate a ton of plastic materials and you did not do anything to it, you just put it into a bag, 1,000 kilograms, and you sell it to a manufacturing company, you could get, say, 300,000 for that 1,000 kilograms of waste. But if somebody who is an aggregator compresses that same 1,000 kilogram of waste, right, into a smaller block, uses a machine to compress it, he or she could get 450,000, 500,000 for that same quantity of waste that you've collected, right? If the person goes higher in the value chain and say, oh, I want to crush it, I want to break it into bits and make flakes out of it, he could get as high as maybe 600,000. If he goes ahead to say, I'm going to wash it before I sell it, he gets another maybe 700,000. If he says, oh, I'm going to wash it with hot water, he's going to get 900,000. So the higher you go in the value chain, the more profitable it becomes. And if you now get to manufacturing, where you now start making final products, then you're talking about making times 3, times 2 of whatever the person who is just collecting waste is making. So I would say just start at whatever level that you are able to, because it's a very capital intensive business if you want to go and start buying equipment and all those things. But start with collection, start with aggregation, just collect as much as you can, aggregate, find a company that is reliable. And over time, I tell you, our first equipment we got was even from a company that we were supplying waste. We were just supplying them waste, and they said, oh, if you could do this without a machine, without an equipment, we would give you a baling machine to just start compressing waste for us. So you see, just start from collection, aggregation, and I believe that, for me, that's the first step. Once you're able to collect, it solves all your other problems as you go higher in the value chain, because now you know the ropes. So I would say aggregate, and then sell. It's a game of numbers.
I just want to build a bit on this question. So yes, you're saying start small, but then aim higher, right? This is what you're saying. Start small and then aim higher. But I believe some people will be asking, so what do I need to start small? If I just wanted to start collection today, what resources do I need? Because I remember Rita asked in the beginning, or was it Rita or someone who asked about land and stuff like that?
Okay. So I don't want to sound all motivational, right? If you have a will, there always is a way. So I guess in points myself, I like to use myself as an example. I was living in an estate in Abuja, and I went to meet the estate resident association. I'm like, oh guys, I have this beautiful idea to help you reduce the waste you guys generate in this estate. Just give me one small space in this estate, and I'm going to be collecting waste and aggregating there. And if you don't try, you can never know. And they gave me a small space in the estate, and I started collecting waste there. I used that space for like 2-3 years before, and I did not pay a dime for it. It was just I had to just write my proposal and give to them. So yes, land is something you need to get. Most definitely, you need to get a space if you're going to do the business. But you could partner with somebody. You could even tell the landowner and say, I don't have the money now, but what if I pay you in installments? What if I pay you from the proceeds that I get from the waste that we are collecting? And you'll be surprised. Sometimes, especially in rural communities, the amount you need to rent a land space is so small, you would not imagine it. So small in some rural communities. So land will be one, and then you need a weighing scale. You don't need something big. A 100 kg weighing scale, you could get that. That's, currently in the market now, it's not up to it should be around maybe $20 or $15 for a digital a analog weighing scale, 100 kg. So you can actually measure what you are collecting, and you can keep records of what you are selling. The other thing I need to mention also is when you start collection, please keep records, because the recycling business is very tricky. Keep records. Keep record of every single drop, every piece of plastic that you collect, or any piece of recyclable that you collect, because the numbers must make sense. And because I said it's a game of numbers, the more you collect, the more profitable it becomes. And in that process of collecting more, there is that tendency of losing track of what you are collecting. So you could collect maybe 1,000 kilograms and you think you've collected 2,000 kilograms, because by the time you look at it, it's so big, you think you've collected so much. So keep track of your numbers, keep track of what you're collecting and what you're selling per time. I hope that's helpful to somebody.
Yeah, I think, yes, anybody could now, really launch out to actually start a recycling business.
Truly. Thank you so much. Okay, so please, how much time do we have, guys, for this Q&A? Because I guess a lot of people are itching to ask questions so that we can get into the interaction session. Yeah, Blessing, did you hear me?
Okay, sorry, I didn't get the question.
Okay, I was asking if we have more questions from you people's side, because I'm hoping we can get into the interaction session, because I guess a lot of people are already itching to ask questions or something.
Yes, we still have a lot of questions were sent in. We still have a lot of questions around community engagement, financing the business, and just the environmental and health impacts. So okay, I don't know how do we want to do this. Should we take the questions and see if it fits into any of these aspects, or do we go ahead to take the ones we still have?
Okay, fine. I think that's what we do. Maybe we'll just know if there are questions. If there are not, we can continue. But if there are, we can just ask and see if it fits into any of that, so that we can use one stone to kill two birds, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I do not know, Mr. Fataki, I do not know if your question was very well answered. But if you are not satisfied, you might want to ask again. Yes, I can see your hands are up. You can go ahead, Mr. Pataki, and ask again. Can you unmute your mic? And any other person, please, if you have a question, kindly show by the raise of hands. That would help us know how many people want to ask questions. Okay. Okay. Okay, I see your... Okay, since Mr. Fataki is not ready, Kayode, you might just go ahead. Kindly unmute your mic and ask. Hello, can anyone hear me?
Okay, good evening, everyone.
Yeah, good evening.
Thank you for the facilitators. Thank you, Mr. Femi. Thank you, Mrs. Blessing, and our compare for the expositions and everything so far. So what I wanted to basically ask is how do we source the companies or the organizations that we give this waste to? And that's my first question. And secondly, I also want to ask is, as someone who deals with waste recycling, is it safe to just focus on one kind of waste, or you can diversify into as many wastes as possible, namely organic waste and the rest of them that you mentioned earlier? So those are my two questions. Thank you. I hope the question was recorded.
Okay, thank you. So I got the second question around identifying the companies you want to sell to, and then the second one would be then, is it safe to do just one stream of waste, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Blessing, do you want to take a stab at that, or should I go ahead?
Maybe I think I'll take on the diversifying. Maybe you then talk about locating recycling companies, since you're in the recycling association.
Yes.
Okay. So I mean, from your name, I believe you are in Nigeria, Mr. Kayode. So, this would determine. It will dependent on where you are located. Where are you located?
I stay in Abuja.
Yes, beautiful. So there are a couple of companies in Abuja, and I think easiest thing, just type recycling companies in Abuja on Google. You find a couple of them. But to make it easier, what you could also do is visit Recyclers Association of Nigeria. I think it's .org. Recyclers in Nigeria. Just Google Recyclers in Nigeria or Recyclers Association of Nigeria. You would see a list of companies on their website and the states that they operate in. Okay, so the other thing we could do, Kayode, since you're in Abuja and I'm in Abuja as well, there are a couple of companies that I could direct you to. So depending on what you want to recycle, paper, plastics, or metals. We could talk about that after this call. Maybe Rita, you can get my contact from Rita, and she can definitely share some contact with you. Just depending on what you want to recycle. So.
Okay, thank you so much, Femi, for that. Okay, now, Echo Waves, please, since you wanted to chip in something, kindly unmute. Thank you. Before we take the next question.
Okay, right. In Abuja, you can go to Echo Bata.
Okay, it's fine. We can't really hear you. Your background is very noisy.
Okay.
Please kindly mute your mic, Echo Wave. Thank you. Okay, yeah. I guess Kayode got all of that. So there is help for you everywhere. And why he mentioned Echo Bata, I remember reading it on Blessings by
Yeah.
So that's interesting. You see, there's help everywhere. So either ways, you can, of course, speak to Femi, and from there, you pick it up. Thank you, guys. So, okay, go ahead, Blessing.
Okay, just to add, just like Femi mentioned, every company has what they usually collect, and that's why it's also good to still check out the website he did talk about, because it then specifies what they collect. Some people might collect only plastic, some people might collect plastics and cartons and all of that, and that also fits into Kayode's second question about either diversifying or sticking to one. So sticking to one has both its advantage and its disadvantage. It makes you a sort of professional, let me use that word, in whatever stream you decide to stick to. When they say, I'm looking for plastic, let me just go straight to Kayode. I know Kayode is plastic. It doesn't do any other thing. But then once you're in the recycling space, you get opportunity to, collect other materials. And sometimes because the recycling space is very volatile and the price of plastic might be high today and low tomorrow, but then the price of carton goes up. So it makes it easier when you're doing two streams, so that when the price of one comes down today, you can just lay low on that aspect and focus on the carton market or the metal market. So it helps you get multiple streams and also have something to fall back on. I would also advise that you stick to materials that are closely related. Instead of saying you're doing plastic and you're doing organic, why not say you're doing PET plastics and HDPE instead of going from plastic to organic? That's very far, and before you find aggregators, you have to go to 2 different places. But when you're doing materials that are closely related, either paper and carton or plastic and hard plastic or metal and aluminium, you most likely find one aggregator that collects both of them.
Okay, great blessing. Thank you so much.
Let me clear.
Oh yeah, it's perfect. Now,
Kindly tell me if you are hearing me clear, please.
yes, please. It's clear now. I can hear you very clearly now.
Okay, now let me
Thank-
proceed. Now let me table my 2 questions. One question is concerning about this African social entrepreneurship concerning waste management, whether this firm or whether this club has cooperated or is willing to cooperate with Kenya, any other club, or maybe it is a wide firm or a club that is working worldwide, so that we can be informed in future session or weather event, simply because our main goal, all of us, is one. Let's say our main goal is one. So that I would like to get to know whether it has collaborated with Kenya or whether it is a worldwide firm. One. Is my first question clear so that I can proceed with question 2? Okay, let me proceed with question 2. Question 2, I'm making inquiry concerning issue whether certificates are going to be issued for this session. Those certificates are going to be very impactful in our CV. Those certificates are going to motivate us, act as a reinforcement in ensuring we remain on our path of ensuring recycling of waste management. Thank you.
Okay, I can see your question is, your concerns is directed at us, not to what we are speaking to in this workshop. Yes, there is certificates, because that's part of what I heard. Yes, there is certificate, and about we having to partner or collaborate with you, you would have to formally tell us what you are into and what you require of us, so we can talk about that later. You already, if you're on the group, you would see that we have a programs and very active social media person there. So please take your questions to her. She will bring it to us. Thank you. So if there are no questions, we'll just proceed. There's a question at the chat session. Yes, question on policy, tax, and whatnot. Let me check by Samuel. So here is Samuel's question. He said, please address the policy, accreditation, and taxes. Sometimes they are a hindrance, especially in the upcoming entrepreneur, especially to the upcoming entrepreneurs. So please, Samuel is asking a question on policy, accreditation, tax, sometimes, because they can be hindrances and challenges. And you know that, please, Blessing and Femi, we have people from different parts of Africa. And even I think someone that's asking this question is in Kenya, I guess. So I do not know how you are able to answer that question, maybe in Nigerian context, but applicable to other parts of the continent. Yes, maybe that works. Thank you. So over to you, Blessing and Femi. Thank you. Hello.
Okay, so from a Nigerian context, the way we recycling companies operate is, like we said, waste management in Nigeria is in the hands of local government in the Nigerian context. So if you wanted to start a recycling company in, say, Kuje Area Council, you need to be registered with Kuje Area Council Waste Management Department. That is your first point of call. And then that gives you access to operate in Kuje Area Council. This is the way it works in Nigeria. Now, upon registration, if you decide to leave Kuje Area Council to go to Kwali Area Council, you also have to be registered in Kwali Area Council as a waste collection or management company. So you also need to understand what laws are guiding or what policies are guiding in your own region or local environment. And then it is very important that in as much as we're trying to protect or save the environment or build sustainable businesses, we also need to be in line with government regulations and policies. Also have your business registered. As for Nigerians, we register our businesses with CAC, Corporate Affairs Commission. Have your business register with the local authorities, and if you eventually want to go statewide, you then go to the state authority, and if you want to go nationwide, you then go to the national authority. So this is how these things work in the Nigerian context. And I believe that if you're in Kenya, you probably need to go to maybe the Ministry of Environment to find out what policies are in place. And if your business is registered either as an NGO or as a limited liability, then that's where you begin to know, okay, what kind of tax applies to your business and what you must comply with. For NGOs, the case will be different from limited liability. Other tax that you may need to, or policy, or let me look at the question again. Other compliance that you might need to, maybe road safety compliance, factory compliance, because you are dealing with waste. A lot of the times you may be dealing with hazardous waste, so you need to also be compliant with whatever rules are guiding waste management in your region. Yeah. I hope that answers the question.
That does. The truth is that however you register your organization will matter, and that is how these regulations and policies are applied to you. Thank you, Blessing. That was very in-depth. And because of our time, I think it's important to jump over to the area of finance. You had mentioned it, and then community engagement, because they are very key to anyone who would want to start this business. So maybe we can just take this two and then wrap up. Thank you. And sorry, before we proceed, kindly complete the form. The link is on the chat box and is even pinned, so you can see it there. Please kindly complete the form. That will make us very happy. We really want to hear from you, because there are insights that would need to further do other workshops, and they will help us also to talk about interesting topics that you would want to learn from. It was because of people's inputs and contribution that we're able to talk about this particular topic. So you will not know how much your recommendation or you filling the form will help inform our decisions going forward. Please kindly complete the form. Take out 2 seconds. They are just about very few questions. It will not even take you time, and they are very straightforward. Thank you. Over to you, Blessing and Femi. Okay, so sorry. Seems like Juma has another question. Juma, please, our time is almost fast spent. You want to ask your question? Is your question first? Is your question directed to Blessing and Femi? If not, if it's directed to us, you might just want to bring it to us later. If you're not on the WhatsApp community, you have our email, because I forwarded message to everyone who applied. So you have our info. You can reach us through all of these means, please. Thank you. Over to you, Blessing and Femi. Thank you.
Can you hear me? Thank you very much, Rita. So I think there are a couple of questions on community engagement. I'll see how I can just cram all of them into one and touch on all of the areas. So first of all, community plays a very important role in waste management, just as we've said initially, and that is why in Nigeria, this is left with the local authorities. And especially in our African context, where we are a very traditional people, it is important that we take the traditional laws or applications of whichever community we are taking our engagement to into play. So if you let me give an instance of sometime we tried to do a community engagement. So we went to a community where people were not good with weaving, and we went to teach them how to weave. That project flopped because it was a very difficult task for the women. They were mostly farmers and they preferred farming. So when we took up weaving to them, it seemed like a very difficult task because it wasn't something they were used to. And so that initiative flopped. And we thought that it wasn't making sense until we took it to another community where the women were very good with weaving. This is part of their tradition. It's something they have been doing. And then we saw that it gained more adoption. So most times when you want to carry out community engagement, it is very good to assess the community you are taking your engagement to. What are they good with? What do they want? What solutions do they want? Because you also need to take into consideration their input. So what they want, what they are skilled in, now build on their skills to bring in community projects, and then also make sure that you are carrying along with their leaders, because a lot of these communities, they pay good respect or good homage to their leaders. So if you're not in talks with their leaders or you are not carrying their leaders along, your project may have hiccups here and there. So you have to do a top-down approach where you're engaging with both the community themselves and the community leaders, because to a large extent, the community leaders can enforce whatever projects or policies that you're bringing into play. For instance, community cleanups. You go to some communities and you see that community leaders are very active, and you go and talk to them and say, your community is dirty. Why not set up an environmental task force to ensure that every Saturday or every Friday morning in the market, everybody sweeps the front of their shop before they begin to sell? By the time the community leaders enforce these laws, it makes the environment even neater and cleaner for everyone to, take up. And then also bringing in youth participation. It is said that recycling creates 6 times more jobs than disposal, because if I were to go and dispose of my waste now, what I would do is I will take it from my house, take it to a place where I will burn it, and I've burnt it. I did not create any job in trying to do that. But if we're going to recycle that waste, you're going to take it from your house to someone who is going to come and pick it up. So you've given a driver a job. The driver will probably have someone who is assisting him for collection. You take it to the recycling company where you have sorters. They sort the materials. If you're going into processing, you have different processing lines, as Femi had mentioned in setting up a recycling business. So there are various recycling processes, either the sorting, separating by color, what chemical or mechanical engineering, you're going to machine operators and all of that. So the recycling chain has a lot of job opportunities. And then we also mentioned tech. We know that young people are very interested in technology nowadays. There are so many tech opportunities in waste management that you can then engage the youth in, or even just not even digital technology again, just innovative technologies on how to manage waste. And you'll be surprised with what the young people can come up with. So yeah, those are some of the ways that we could engage community in waste management. Maybe Femi, I'll just give you the floor to talk a little about maybe financing the business.
Okay, thank you, Blessing. So the waste management business and recycling business is a very interesting one that needs capital and also needs patient capital. So what I mean by patient capital is that you don't need financing that you need to pay back in a hurry. You need to give it time. So if you're looking to finance your recycling business, please look for financing models that do not typically require you to pay back, or do not require to pay back within a short period of time, because it's a long-term business. So I would suggest, I typically advocate for grants and for crowdfunding. These two allows you to get funding, which is also patient and which is long term. You could also consider things like getting funds from your family, from your friends and foes. But I typically will advise that, except that funding you are getting from family and friends is very patient, long term. You don't need to worry about paying back like very soon. You could actually go for that. But because the recycling business has some connection to climate change, you could easily get grant funding for innovative solutions that you come up with for recycling and for waste management. So the idea then is be innovative as possible so that you can get grant funding. That would help you. That would help your business in a great deal, because like Blessing mentioned at some point when she was speaking about how it's a seasonal market. So today plastics may be the one that is on the high side. Tomorrow it could be carton. What happens when you've probably gone to borrow money from a bank and you bought plastics at a certain price and you go to the market to sell and the price had dropped drastically? You're going to lose money. So it's important to have money that is patient, that does not require you to pay back like what's it called, instantly or in a short period of time. And some strategies you could adopt, like I mentioned, have innovation in your business. Be innovative as much as you can, and also tell stories. This is something I learned in the later part of my work in the recycling sector and the social sector. Tell a lot of stories with your work, because people want to identify with stories, with beautiful stories, with stories that make impact, with impactful stories. And you need to learn this skill, learn how to tell your story from the onset. If you collect one bag of waste today, or if you find something interesting around recycling, tell a story around it, share it on your social media, talk about it, so that people begin to know and identify that this is what you do. And that way it is easier for you to even access donor funding, access funding from partners, and even people that in the sector. You can make money at every level, like I mentioned. It's a great tool for job creation, because at every level in the recycling value chain, a job is created. Blessing had mentioned recycling creates 6 times more job than conventional waste management. So instead of just dumping your waste, if you follow through the recycling process, collection, sorting, aggregation, and all that, you are going to be creating 6 times more job than just what's it called now? Than just dumping the waste or burning it, as the case may be. Blessing, maybe I let you just add your thoughts around how to turn waste into wealth and identifying some possibilities. Blessing, are you there? Okay.
Sorry, I thought I had unmuted. Okay, so I think this is what we've been talking about. I think at some point initially Femi did mention that whenever you go into a community, you need to identify exactly what problem or what opportunity exists there. So you cannot go to a community where there is majorly organic waste and begin to talk about plastic waste. You would lose your audience, you would be investing poorly. So when you're in a community, or you go to a certain community and you want to carry out a waste world initiative, you need to identify what waste problem or what waste opportunity exists in that community. Is it agricultural waste? Are they majorly farmers? If they are majorly farmers, then you should be tending towards agricultural waste. How can I convert agricultural waste to either energy or to compost? And then if it's in line of plastic or paper waste, maybe it's a market area where they deal a lot with paper. So you would then begin to look at what opportunities exist in the paper recycling line, or if it's a market that deals with, or a community that has a lot of plastic, do you now want to say, okay, I want to set up a collection center here, just collect the waste, take it to a recycling center and sell? Or are these people that I can train to then upcycle this material into new products and sell? Like I mentioned, do they have a craft that you can leverage on to then turn it into a business model to then incorporate, so that you then have a finished product? Because as earlier mentioned, the higher up the value chain of waste management you go, the more money you tend to make. And then it is very important that you're patient. As Femi had said, it's very important that you're patient, because a lot of the times when people talk about waste to wealth, you think it's like a gold mine where if you come in today, you make your money and you're very big and you're rich out there. But just like every other business, it takes time, it takes investment, it takes you putting yourself into it and in it and trying to see daily what progress you can make, and eventually, the wealth comes in.
Okay, thank you so much, Blessing. This part that cracked me up is when we hear waste to wealth, we think is a good man. Honestly, that's what's been on my head. That's what I've been looking to look for, maybe bowl around my area and say, please let me and start gathering waste too, because it seems like there's so much money here. If not, there's no way it will be named turning waste to wealth. That means just little of it is enough to make you very wealthy. So, thank you so much for that. Thank you also, everyone. So please, by a way of announcement, just I would require Blessing and Femi to please do a brief intro, because we didn't start recording on time. So that part of founder story, I still have to come in, please, so that we'll pick it for the sake of recording, right? But before then, I want us to know, please, if you've not been able to complete the feedback form, please kindly do that. I think that's what we're going to use now for the certificates. I can see a lot of requests on certificates. Yes, we have certificates. Now we're going to use the feedback form for the certificate. That's why there is option of your name there. So you might also want to input your name correctly the way you want it to appear on your certificate, because we're going to be using that. Please kindly complete the feedback form. We want to hear from you. Thank you so much. So Blessing and Femi, please, you would have to pardon me the recording.
I don't see the form. I don't see the form. Excuse me, please.
Okay, 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 great. I heard you. Now, the form link is at the chat box. If you can see it, I pinned it here and I've just copied it again. Check the chat box right now. You will see the form. Can you see it now? Kindly confirm that you can see it now. Hello. Can you see it now, Jamal? Can you see it now, Jamal? Okay, when you are able to unmute, kindly answer or drop the chat. Okay, please echo with you. Okay, please echo with you. Mr. You want to say something?
Yeah. Hello.
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, I'm so glad to be here. And like you've seen from my from the name on the board is Echo Wave Radio. I would actually want to have everyone here who is a change maker to be on my podcast. Wherever you may be in the world, wherever. It's just going to be basically interviews and basically interviews. It could be virtual, it could be physical if you're in Nigeria.
Okay.
I would like to have
Echo Wave, please, because we do not have much time, you might want to send us that request. Please kindly send that request to the social media manager. She will pick it up from there. And if you want to invite the facilitators to your podcast, also put that in writing. We'll reach out to them and get back to you. Thank you.
Yeah, cool. Good.
Okay, so just as I was saying before, we would have just rounded off here, but please, the recording started very late, and we always share this recording too with our audience. Please, Blessing and Femi, kindly pardon me, and just please help me take your founder story again. But before you start that, kindly introduce yourself in the format. I mean, you do not have to say your bio, just your name, your role, and then talk briefly about what you do, where you started. Please, in just very few seconds, make it very short for the sake of recording. Thank you. Sorry about this. My sincere apologies.
No problem. It's fine. Okay, so again, my name is Blessing Ekwere, and I'm the founder of Looped Innovations. I started out my journey in 2018 as a volunteer for EcoBata. Eventually, I moved on to have that as a permanent role. I became the head of operations at EcoBata, and I led teams to recover recyclable materials, institute recycling centers in communities, and carry out waste resource empowerment trainings. And during this period, I realized that there was still a problem in the recycling space, which is the single-use plastic. They were very difficult to recycle, and a lot of recycling companies were not taking them up. And so I decided to create an alternative to this, which is paper packaging. And since I started out, I have been able to produce over 10,000 packaging products, thus eliminating the equivalent of plastic from the environment. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Even if we had heard her before, I think it's also good that we clap. I mean, that's very laudable. You can see where Blessing started from and where she is right now. Please just let's appreciate Blessing. Thank you so much, Blessing, for having to go over that again. Sincere appreciations. Okay, over to you, Femi. Please kindly. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Good evening again. My name is Femi Uweye. I'm the co-founder of the Trashmonger company. I started my journey in the waste recycling sector during my national service, where I carried out a project to help school children to understand the concept of waste management, recycling, and climate change. We got support from the Abuja Environmental Protection Board at that point, and then I went on to resell the plastics that we recovered. And so it just piqued my interest because I saw that there was value in the waste that we collected. And so we started off just collecting waste at my backyard, in my house. And we went on to employ like 5 women who were collecting waste for us from different houses, shops, offices, companies, pure water companies within the estate that I lived in. And so far, we've been able to collect and recycle over 5,000 metric tons of waste within the space of 4 years. We currently employ around 50 to 100 women who do waste sorting and the likes for us on a regular basis. That's just an overview of our story. Thank you very much.
Wow, that's so huge. 50 to 100 women. Oh my God. I think for me, I'm going to start this business soon, but Blessing already tried to let us know that it's not like waste to wealth the way they say it, Ganga. So maybe we're careful not to venture into it without proper consultations. Thank you so much, Femi and Blessing.